Welcome to Extreme Hangout, and a very special day for Sport for Climate Action. In partnership with Think Beyond, we're an organisation that supports leaders and organisations around sustainability and social impact and help leaders lead in this space using sport. So we're delighted to be in partnership. Thank you to Al and his team for creating this platform for young people and those who are young at heart as well. I think it's a really important space to have here. When we look at sport, we're well aware, and certainly over the last couple of years, how it can play such a substantial role around reducing inequalities, creating community, and issues of health and wellness. But where sport has sometimes struggled to find its voice is around sustainability, partly because it has struggles around ensuring that it does stick to sustainability and ensure that it is behaving itself in this space. Because by the very nature of sport, live events matters, fans matter, and pulling tens of thousands of people to stadiums has a dramatic impact. So sport's at an interesting time at the moment, and so where we see it really thrive in other areas, we need it to step forward around sustainability, and that's what today is all about. I think it's, when I reflect on what this day might bring for us, we do have that decision, that conversation around live event, and we've seen how important that is for culture and society over the last couple of years when it wasn't with us. But likewise, we've also seen that amazing platform that sport can provide through its athletes, through its brands. And this is where there's some real excitement, because although sport can play a part around innovation, its real opportunity, I think, sits around how it uses its platform and how the athletes use their voice. And sometimes I think a lot of athlete activism, as we've seen over the last couple of years, it's all very personal, whereas here we're talking about something that's far bigger. So hopefully those athletes will coalesce around what we're seeing here over the next few weeks. And when we talk about the leadership that we need from sport, one person who's been leading in this space for an awful long time is Claire Paul. She has set up an amazing coalition around Sports Positive, linking into the UN climate framework, and a real gathering point. And we're very fortunate to have her here. And Claire's going to take over from the next panel as well. I'm just going to say a quick thank you. I've mentioned Al and the team here as well, but also to the team at Think Beyond, Lisa Markey, Radha Balani, Sam Shave, who's waiting for his baby to arrive today, so isn't with us, and Nick Rucastle as well. Thank you for their support, making sure we've pulled off a great day of content. There's some great panels coming up, so please stay for the day and enjoy yourself. Also, quick thanks to One Young World as well. So I'm going to now hand over to Claire, who's been a fantastic leader in the space for the first panel. Thank you very much.
I don't want to be left up here by myself, for goodness sake. Come on. There we are, we've got everyone. Welcome. Well, that was pressure for me now with that intro to carry things on. I'm delighted to be here with you all, and welcome to everyone who's here, friendly faces in the audience here, and everyone who's tuning in online. Big thanks, first of all, to Think Beyond, who've brought the agenda together today for a brilliant day of sport-focused discussions. It takes a village to bring these events together, and there's so many people involved. So thanks to them and to Alistair and Extreme for the overall event. It's a brilliant opportunity for us to talk about some of these topics. So, as you can see, I have a very esteemed panel with me here, who we're going to hear from shortly. But I just want to pick up on Nick's introductory comments there about the power of sport in terms of action and ambition on climate change, which is what we focus on. So we know the power of sport is universal, it's far-reaching, it reaches people's hearts and minds in areas they're passionate about, and it's a massive way that we can all connect with people about big issues like climate change in a place where they are, in a way that really resonates with them. So the power of sport's massive. The impact that sport has on the environment is there, so we know in terms of whether at elite or at a grassroots level, we do have impacts through sport taking place, and vice versa. climate change has an impact on the sports we play. So whether it's at grassroots or an elite level, with the rise of super hot days that we're experiencing, flooding, drought, high winds, you know, there's so many issues that impact at an elite level, training and professional performance, but also at a grassroots level of us all just exercising and in our leisure time ourselves. So culminates and coming through in so many different ways. So loads to talk about today, and I would like to just start by introducing our panel. So needs no introduction, Ledley King, Tottenham Hotspur footballer, icon and now ambassador for the club. Julie Doofus, Senior Sustainability Manager at the IOC. Hannah Mills, double Olympic gold medalist and founder of the Big Plastic Pledge, and Tom Gribben, CEO and co-founder of Planet Super League. So loads of different perspectives, two incredible athletes and two incredible leaders in the sustainability space for us to hear from today. So, Hannah, I'm going to come to you first in terms of your journey. So obviously, incredibly decorated athlete in your career and now, dare I say, activist in the environmental space. But just tell everyone a little bit about that journey for you.
Yeah, well, I guess activist is an interesting word, and I guess it covers a whole range of people doing different things. I think traditionally it's someone who's out there protesting and, I don't know, doing something crazy, but I think in this sustainability space we need all types of activists. And you know, I'd say I'm a positive activist and one who really believes that sport and athletes do have an incredible platform to push forward these sustainability agendas. But my journey started at Rio 2016. Well, the lead up to Rio 2016, we spent a long time sailing in the waters of Rio and experiencing how devastating the plastic waste problem was there in the waters. You know, we sailed through meters of plastic, and it just really hit me, and I'd never sort of had a moment like that, I guess, with the environment or the planet, that just sort of hit me so hard that as I kind of continued my journey and carried on to Tokyo, thought if I carry on, I need to use what I'm doing, sailing and competing and speaking to media to try and help address some of these issues. And so I started the Big Plastic Pledge, which is all about trying to eradicate single-use plastic in sport. The IOC supported that initiative, and I'm now a sustainability ambassador for the IOC. But actually during lockdown, I sort of had a bit of time, like everyone, I guess, in a way, to stop and think more broadly about sustainability, and did a course on sustainability and business and how the two can link, and I guess it just expanded my horizons. And so now I'm sort of much more focusing on the plastics, but also the climate crisis and how I and other athletes can use our voices for helping that.
Amazing, and we're going to hear more about the role of athletes and also a bit more probably about the Plastic Pledge. But I just want to tee up a video. So Joe, our main man on the AV side, is going to get that ready. And Hannah, can you introduce this video, because you launched it a couple of days ago. It's been massive. Tell us tee it up for us.
Yeah, so after Tokyo, myself and another athlete, Melissa Wilson, who's a rower, we've been talking since January about what we wanted to do and how we thought athletes' voices were really powerful in this space. And we just felt like, you know, Tokyo was an Olympics that a lot of us never thought was going to happen because of the challenges around COVID. And it was just phenomenal that it did under the circumstances. And as athletes, you know, we always have challenges, but I'd say Tokyo was probably the biggest challenge for us to get to and compete at. And so it just felt like it was so tangible in the ambition and the challenge of Tokyo to what's going on these 2 weeks with COP26. And if we could unite the athletes' voices from the Olympics and the Paralympics there in a powerful video to address the world leaders, to show that athletes care, global athletes care. I think we had over 50 athletes, 50 different nations involved in the video. And yeah, I'll stop talking about it, we'll just watch it.
Dear leaders of the world.
Dear leaders of the world.
Dear leaders of the world.
This summer, at the Tokyo Olympic and Paralympic Games,
we as athletes chased excellence in the face of challenges.
To overcome obstacles.
To lead the pack.
To go faster, higher, stronger.
Together,
under immense pressure and adversity.
We delivered.
Meeting goals that others believe impossible.
Tokyo and the people of Japan delivered.
When many thought it impossible.
Each Games seeks to deliver a lasting legacy.
But how do we pass on that legacy if there isn't a safe and healthy planet to experience it?
Heat, humidity and extreme weather conditions
mean many of our sports are already under threat.
And sport is just one part of a much greater global picture.
We did our utmost this summer.
And we know that when we strive to achieve our best, others come with us.
Now, it's your chance to deliver.
This is the race we need to win.
And the speed of the race is determined by each of the participants in it.
At COP26,
the Olympics of climate summits.
We need you to lead us.
To show real ambition and courage.
Working together to secure the future that we all depend on.
Anything less won't win this race.
Over the next fortnight, we will be looking to you and supporting you.
To forge the ultimate legacy.
A healthy, safe Earth for all.
Yours, athletes of the world.
Absolutely brilliant. I think I've seen that about 20 times, and every time I still think, oh, I feel a bit choked up about that. It's just so powerful. And I think the power of athletes we're going to talk about more, so brilliant that you've all seen that video now if you hadn't already before. But Julie, because I'm going to come on to you next, because of course the IOC helped Hannah and Melissa bring the video together, and we want to hear more now about the IOC in terms of what you're doing to tackle climate change from your perspective.
Yeah, and every time I see that video, it still sort of brings tears to my eye too. So thank you, Hannah and Melissa. I think we've heard a lot this morning about the power of sport, but I think what we need to do is step back a bit and say, actually admit to ourselves that actually sport does have an impact as well. We have a lot of events, we travel a lot, we ship sport equipment around the world, so we have got to address that first. And we've got to take responsibility for that. So at the IOC, we have committed to the new targets of the Sport for Climate Action Framework, which we helped the UN co-launch in 2018. And we're reducing our emissions by 50% on scopes 1, 2, and 3 by 2030, and also by 30% by 2024, just to make sure that we keep on track along the way. And of course that comes with big challenges, and a lot of the answers we don't have yet, but I think what sport has is the ability to reach so many people and work with our partners, work with our sponsors, and work with university and academics to find those solutions. And I think that's really what we need to focus on. All of us, not just sport, but all sectors need to focus on that in the coming years if we're going to face this crisis, basically. And then on top of that, we're creating an Olympic forest, which is not just about planting trees, but we're working with 90 villages in Senegal and Mali. And that's about really reaching the communities that have been hit so hard already by climate change. So they're facing big desertification issues. And so we're working with those 90 villages to really restore their livelihoods. So it's about planting trees, yes, but it's also about giving them a livelihood as well to live with those trees and to really get products from those trees to live on. So that's a new project which we're very excited about and will be quite a long-term project for us. And then we've made big commitments also with the Olympic Games. So they are now contractually obliged to become climate positive by 2030. And Paris 2024 are actually already committed to that as well. And they are reducing by 50% as well on their footprint. And they've got some really exciting projects going ahead. So hopefully you'll be able to share that with us in Paris 2024. And then, of course, we've heard about how we can reach and use the power of sport and the platform. So a lot of what I do actually at the IOC is to work with what we call the Olympic movement. So that's all the international sport federations and the national Olympic committees and the wonderful people like Hannah to really reach those audiences. But to me, it's not just about the amazing humans like Hannah, it's also actually every one of you, because all of us are athletes. I'm sure all of you practice or love one kind of sport. And all of us together have such a power to make change happen.
Thanks, Julie. And I think the really important theme there is the walking the talk vibe in terms of from an organisational perspective, whilst the fan reach and the engagement around sport's absolutely massive, how can we expect fans to do things if we don't do it organisationally ourselves? And I think Spurs, Ledley, is a brilliant example of that walk and the talk, isn't it? So tell us about your role as ambassador and sort of let's talk about some of the things Spurs are doing around this.
Yeah, well, you know, sustainability has been in the club's DNA for a number of years now. But it's important that we keep progressing. I think back to when I was a player at the old training ground, and you know, the players didn't really have much awareness around the subject. Today, you go to the new training ground, and we, you know, as I say, it's part of the DNA, it's part of the club. You go around, you have an organic kitchen, which produces fresh fruit, veg, which the players eat on a daily basis. Obviously, reducing the food miles. You know, you have bug houses, but you know, bug hotels. You know, it gets confusing. You know, wildlife ponds. You know, these are things that we never saw at the old training ground. So it shows how far we've progressed. The new stadium, of course, is you know, one of the best in the world. You know, 100% renewable energy. You know, no waste produce goes to landfill. You know, we're making great efforts around the stadium. The fans are making great efforts, you know, in their travel to the stadium. And, you know, this is something that I think all football clubs are beginning to take on now. And, you know, we've obviously set a standard being the greenest club in the Premier League. And, you know, we're very proud of that. But, you know, it's important to know that there's still progression to be made. And you know, we can still keep improving. Yeah,
absolutely. And you, of course, Spurs hosted the first net zero football match, Game Zero, not that long ago. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was great, and you know, we obviously encourage fans to you know, travel to the stadium by walking, cycling, using public transports, which I believe they did in their hundreds of thousands. You know, the food options was great. I believe that we doubled that on the day as well. So you know, the fans are taking it on board as well, which is great. The players drink from cartons. You know, cartons, they drink their water from cartons around the stadium, and you know, something that as a football club we're all taking on board, and we're trying to make improvements to help the environment.
It's massive. It's massive, and I think something like that. I mean, you said, you know, players drinking from cartons instead of single-use plastic. You know, what might to the outside world seem like quite a small thing, but in terms of seeing the footballers, the icons, you know, people they really look up to and respect doing that, we see that behaviour change then filtering down into society, don't we?
People ask questions, you know, why is this happening? Why are they doing this? And, you know, it's important as football players and as role models, you know, and players are role models today, you know, with the followings that they have. It's important to deliver the right messages and, you know, use their powerful voices in the right way. So, you know, as I say, people will ask questions when they see what players are doing, and you know, it's important to make sure we're delivering the right messages.
Definitely. So, loads of things there in stadium that Spurs are doing. Tom, to come to you, you are activating people, massive football fans outside of the stadiums in their own lives. So tell us, first of all, what Planet Super League is.
So we looked at, if you remember the Euro 2020 final, and any English fans in the audience might want to forget it, but Harry Kane was wearing the captain's armband, which was rainbow coloured, and before the game, all the players took a knee. And so football's been used to talk about really important, you know, issues in society, and it's done that. You know, the FA Cup was delayed by a minute, which was all around mental health, and particularly getting men to think about mental health. And isn't that incredible if you think about how we know that mental health is an issue, and how do you get it into, you know, everyday lives for just everyday normal people? And when we thought about sustainability and climate change, football had never really been used in the way that it had for those other issues. So when we set up Planet Super League, that was our ambition, was look, let's try and give sustainability the platform that it, you know, deserves and needs, requires, because of the urgency. So what we're trying to do is, you know, bring the world of sustainability into football and fans. And so it is wonderful. We work with 49 football clubs at the moment. Tottenham are one of our members. We've got some of the other big Premier League clubs, but we've got we've got Chesterfield in the National League, we've got teams in League One, so clubs up and down the country, big and small, local and global. And so it's wonderful, you know, clubs are doing their bit and really getting their own house in order, and the players and the younger players coming through are really getting into it. And where we come in is we're trying to engage those fans, you know, potentially around the match day, going to the stadium, what it is, but our work's always been kind of outside the ground, because we're there for a few hours, we watch on telly, but what are we doing? How are we getting to work? Where are we going on holiday? What food are we eating? How are we heating our home? How are we going to bring this into our kids' lives? And so what we created with Planet Super League is a way that where essentially we've gamified it. We've got a load of activities on our site, and you score a goal for your football club. So you sign up for the club you love. I love Nottingham Forest, and I can do all sorts of activities, from a meat-free meal to line dry my clothes to switch into green energy. And you have to upload a little photo to us to prove that you've done it, and I score a goal. And each week, Forest are playing against another club, like a football match, and it lasts a week, and the club that scores the most goals, or the fans that score the most goals, win. So it's got the sort of world of football in it, but what we've used is hopefully football as a way to talk to people in a way that's relevant. You know, there's lots of great campaigns out there talking about the changes, and we're putting pressure on governments. And what we're trying to do with Planet Super League is, you know, bring it into people's everyday lives and give them something they really connect with. And what we know is 3.5 billion people around the world watched the last World Cup final. Football is, you know, it is a religion to a lot of people. It is their life, and football doesn't stop even when the season's not on, even when the match isn't being played. It's just part of society. So we've started with football. We love to move into other sports as well. We'd love to move into other places, and yeah, we really are seeing a lot of progress made by clubs. And what we do with the clubs is we ask the clubs to shout about Planet Super League to their fan base.
And for those of you as well, after this session today, Tom's going to be announcing the winner of COP26, which is massive. Big announcement after this, a lot of press there. So just quickly tell us about COP26 in terms of that campaign into COP.
So we've been running sort of short tournaments where clubs compete against each other, and the fans do, to score goals and see you know, which fans are the greenest. COP26, you probably get the pun, launched 8 weeks ago. We launched at Wembley. Actually, Ledley came and helped me kick it off. Pardon the pun, we had some load of mascots with us, and over the last 8 weeks we've had the group stages, the semi-finals, and last week the final ran, and yeah, very shortly we will announce the winner. We worked with Counters In and government and all the clubs for 6 or 7 months building this, and we've seen tens of thousands of actions being taken. We were part of the Game Zero, which was an amazing amazing to see football put on that platform. And yeah, straight after this we'll be announcing the winner and celebrating the incredible work that fans across the country, up in Scotland, down in England, in Wales, have taken over the last 8 weeks.
Amazing. So we've heard a bit from all of our panellists. We are going to have time for questions today, so we're going to have another little bit more of a chat. But if you'll start thinking about questions, if you've got any questions for our panellists about what we've been talking about, start thinking about them now. In about 10 minutes, we're going to come and see if they've got any questions at all. So start thinking. But Hannah, I want to come back to you just in terms of this athlete, the power of athletes within this message. So if I remind myself of the name of this session is about the role of sport in a climate-conscious world and how we're doing it. We've had this conversation before, haven't we, about professional elite athletes when they are, practicing. They find it perhaps very difficult to have the time, the headspace, the ability to drive into these bigger topics, and that's why we often see people becoming more vocal in retirement, etc. But in terms of you, can you tell us a bit about that? You mentioned Rio there, but that need for purpose and from going from an athlete into using your voice in this space more.
Yeah, definitely. So, up until London 2012, I was very single-minded, very determined. Just sport was everything, and trying to win an Olympic gold medal was everything. And then I experienced the incredible games of London 2012 and got a silver medal there. And between London and Rio, I think I just felt a bit sort of lost in terms of I'd not won a gold medal, which was my goal, but I'd been to the games, I'd won a medal, and I just felt a bit like I'm not really sure what the point of what I'm doing now is. Like, then there's not, I don't know, I just felt a bit lost with it all, and like there was something missing, I guess, and I didn't have a purpose beyond just a bit of a selfish enjoyment of what I do, and you know, I was very lucky to be able to be an athlete and do what I do. So yeah, I struggled with that for a while, and I think was lucky, I guess, almost that the plastic pollution really, well, I saw it, I witnessed it, and how devastating it was, and it really got to me and sort of gave me that moment of, this is actually my purpose now. And actually, between Rio and Tokyo, I found that focusing on two things alongside my sport, and I guess definitely as a older athlete, maybe you're a bit more experienced and you can maybe have more headspace for different things, but I definitely found that they linked into each other, and I actually found that it was helping me be a better athlete because I had this other piece, and my other values in life were being kind of addressed as well, and so I just felt more content and happy. And yeah, I guess yeah, that's it really. I just found sort of a purpose beyond sport, but that I could use my sport to help build and create momentum and hopefully create positive change as well.
Amazing. And do you think there's ways that we, sort of as professional sports organisations and people working in this space, can support athletes who perhaps care about this? There's a big discussion sort of with professional athletes talking out on big topics. They sort of, Katie Rood, who's a footballer, has said this: you either fall into being a hypocrite or a cynic, because if you care about something very deeply, you want to talk about it. But if you happen to be a footballer, there's a certain carbon footprint that goes with that. For your job, you have to fly around the world, you have to travel. Usually you're in the higher, you know, wage bracket. You have more disposable income, and usually then you buy things that maybe are a little bit more impactful on the environment. But is there ways that we as an industry can support athletes to sort of educate them, support them, make them feel more comfortable to talk out about this stuff?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's a really important topic because we are all hypocrites. I think everyone in this room is probably a hypocrite, but we all care, and we're all trying to do better and trying to improve every single day. And I think that's the important message when it comes to athletes. And we're, Melissa and I, who helped create the video, we're now going to work with an organisation called Aim High, who's all around education in the climate space, but really cool, sort of short, sharp education sessions. And we want to take that to athletes, because I feel like if athletes have an education on what the problem is, how their impact can make a difference, and what they can do to be positive and create change, I think that gives people confidence to actually be, okay, I'm going to put my head above the parapet and I'm going to start speaking about these issues, and also how to deal with, you know, negativity or bad press or whatever can come with being vocal about anything. So yeah, I think it's a really important topic.
I think today's sports stars are a lot more progressive now, and I think if we look at someone like Marcus Rashford, for example, you know, someone who's not afraid to stand up, and you know, although he's a footballer, and I'm sure he knew he was going to get a certain amount of, you know, I suppose bad press or pushback. You know, people are just expected to be a sports star or a sports person and not have a voice. But you know, today, as I say, a lot more progressive, and I do believe we are going this way where, you know, people are able to kind of have a sports career as well as having a very strong opinion on other subjects, and being able to push the both.
Yeah. How do you feel now, sort of retired, obviously coaching as well, and retiring now as an ambassador, sort of talking to people about this? Do you feel like you're able to cut through in a way maybe that scientists or journalists or people like, you know, don't, because of the credibility you've got from your career?
Yeah, not so much for myself, but you know, as a, you know, the power of the badge, I suppose. You know, working for, being part of a football club, such a powerful football club. Of course, you know, we have a huge voice and a huge responsibility to try and push for the good. And you know, rather than myself, you know, I definitely say that the badge helps me to get my point across and help. Yeah.
Definitely. And we've seen like Eric Dyer and his veg patch on the BBC. We saw Lucas Moura doing No Moura landfill with Planet Super League. So Spurs players obviously really are mobilising around this, which is brilliant from the club's perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, as I said, it's been part of the club's DNA for a number of years now, and the players are making great strides and great efforts, as everyone is around the football club. So, you know, the fans are taking that on board as well now. So, yeah, it's really positive.
Oh yeah, chip in.
Just with another example, if there's any football fans here, has anyone heard of David Wheeler? You have, that's good. David Wheeler's a striker for Wycombe Wanderers, and you know he's not played for England or Spurs his whole career. He's not got the profile of and there's very few of these players with big profiles. David Wheeler's incredibly passionate about sustainability, and he got in touch with us, and I know other people here know him, and he said, how can we help? How can I help? And he went to his employer. He went to Wycombe Wanderers, a football club, and said, you guys need to sign up. You need to sign up for Planet Super League. And so it was the footballer that went to the person that pays his check each week, and they joined. And then he said to us, what else can I do? I said, well, what about your other clubs? So he went to his former clubs and the players he knew and said, hey, we're doing this thing, you guys should sign up as well. And I think there's another side to it. You know, there's the front end of being an athlete and everyone's heard of you, but actually it's the influence and the power that players have. You know, players can get managers sacked, we know that. Players can make things happen and make change happen within clubs and organisations and sports as a whole. So I think there's another side to it where, you know, athletes and you know, have almost different roles they can play, and you know, that's just a different example. It doesn't always have to be in front of the camera. It doesn't always have to be in front of the media. It can be behind the scenes, actually, where really powerful things can happen.
Love that. And Julie, I mean, seeing videos like that in the Olympians, and I think the Olympic spirit, I think it brings out something in all of us when we see those sorts of videos and the incredible human achievement that people do through the Olympics. But you've got things like the IOC Young Leaders Programme. You know, talk to us about those in terms of supporting athletes maybe more on this journey as well from the IOC.
Yeah, I think for us, it's almost two things. I think there's one, we feel a big responsibility to support those athletes and give them a stronger voice, give them a platform where they can talk and feel safe in raising their concerns or, you know, what they want to do about it. So number one, that's really key, that we help and support, you know, people like Hannah who want to have a bigger voice. But the other side of it for us is helping those athletes in the career transition. So giving them the skills that they need from when they retire from elite sport to do something that they're really passionate about, whether that's sustainability or whatever they're passionate about. So that's what the IOC Young Leaders Programme is all about. It's about giving youth basically the skills they need to make their projects live basically, and supporting them through that. And I think just going back to your point, I think yes, athletes, but I think all of us, and a lot of people come to us and say, how do we do anything? You know, I'm just me, what can I do? But actually it's amazing what just one person can do in this whole climate process.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to carry on talking, but has anyone got any questions? Does anyone want to chip in? Yes, we'll wait for the mic 1 second so the people online can hear you as well. So.
Thanks very much. It's for Ledley, please. The elite game that was net zero, the Spurs-Chelsea game, was that Spurs that led that, or was there external influences that led to that, like Sky Sports or anyone else, or was it Spurs' idea?
That's a good question. It was Sky that led it, but obviously being you know, very on board, and as I say, the Premier League's greenest club, you know, it was right up our street, and you know, it's something that, as I say, our stadium is geared towards, you know, having the capacity to really push that.
I can chip in on that as well. So in terms of, you know, I think that game that Sky supported obviously and worked very closely with Spurs on, I think, so we run this Sport Positive Sustainability table which Spurs are at the top of, and did a lot of work around that, and I think there's a lot of football clubs doing incredible work in that area, but I think something like Spurs at the top of that league and with that position made a very obvious choice, and the team at Spurs is so behind all of this effort. That there was a few games that could have taken place at, for sure, but I think the Spurs and the home game at Spurs and with Sky, it was a great alignment, I think, for that, in terms of bringing, credibly and authentically bringing that message to the fans.
Can I just have just a quick point on this? You know, if you go to a sporting match, just say a football match, you know, what you generally see is on the match day, they generally have a charity that they might be supporting, or a cause. You know, it might be for breast cancer one week and they're shaking the tin. They might be doing something in the car park to, you know, raise money for something else. And so football clubs have always done that. They've always helped out on a particular issue. It could be homelessness, where they'll camp out in the car park, or whatever it may be. And those things go on. And I think for me, it's the magnitude of that match for me. It wasn't about putting some green notes in the programme. It was one of the biggest Premier League games of the season, and it got broadcast on Super Sunday, and millions of people watched it, but also millions of people across the world watched it in this incredible stadium. And so it's moved out of almost the, like, they call it the CSR department, like, oh, we're going to do something quite good this week, and that match was put on, you know, the biggest scale with the biggest platform, which is football, you know, in the world. And I think for me, it's not been a wake-up call, but it actually shows, you know, how dramatic, you know, you really can, you know, to commit to that and to put it on. I think it's just the start. And so I think it just goes beyond way, you know, what we normally see with, you know, at a football match and what we might have. So I think it was an incredible feat, to be honest.
Amazing first, and we've seen Norwich do their own version in the last couple of weeks. We're going to see more of it now. It's started a movement, and this is what we're going to see more of now, which is really important. Sir, over to you with your question.
Hi, so I just wanted to, with what Tom was asking early on, I thought wanted to make an observation with Marcus Rashford. I think that's also a great example of a sports person and clubs commitment, and all the clubs and all the players adopted that. So we actually get across the fan base. So what he did with poverty and food in Manchester, I mean, everybody supported that. But something that I've been really focused on is the growth and this hockey stick and this inequality. So I think the other side of the factor is we have these multimillionaires earning, what, 500,000, 400,000 pounds a week and demanding more and more higher salaries. And the other one is also the industry, or the business model of a lot of the football clubs is to sell 3 shirts a season, which is really, we were last night at Plastic and Fashion, and we want to get all the brands. So that's also the other step of the model is, how do we get back to a more conservative social growth and not football show the examples and actually not take all these huge increase, these salaries. I know it's a race to the top, but that inequality in sport is actually, that doesn't help, because I mean, I know when 20, 30 years ago, the salaries when Ledley was playing, I'm sure he'd love to go back to earning the kind of money he could earn these days. And the business model also been financed by huge amount of plastic and fossil fuels and shirt sales and really ridiculous kind of things, encouraging people to consume. And that's really where we're going to make a difference. I understand all the, how do you guys feel about that?
That's a big one. I mean, I've got loads of views on that, but as the chair, I'll pass over to anyone else who wants to chip in, and then I've got some thoughts on that as well, so that I can go on, Hannah.
I actually really agree, and I meant to mention it earlier, but one of the things I think that we don't talk about enough with sport is the sponsorship side, and I feel really passionately that we should have a framework for what sponsors are allowed, and whether that's, you know, really simple to start with, but I think that there can be a massive stand on that, and if all sports globally united and signed up to that, and it was kind of mandated, then that would send one hell of a message globally around sports' stance against this. So that's my little bit of that's my little piece on that.
Thanks, Hannah. Any other thoughts? I've got some thoughts that I can share. So I think, you know, massive questions and massive points you've made there, and I don't think anyone in this room or globally would say sport is perfect in terms of that, but I think in terms of the growth of the sport, a lot of the people operating in this space are working in the frameworks that are around them and really trying to drive change from their positions within that framework. Big changes need to be made. We can see it across all industries: sport, fashion, you know, fast industry, consumer goods, etc. So I think the points you're making are incredibly important, but they come from systemic changes in our economy rather than necessarily individuals within sporting organisations. I think that there's so much work to be done, and you've hit on really, really important points. But I think not one of us individually can change that. I think there's a broader systems change that needs to happen, and that's hopefully what they're talking about down the road in the blue zone of these, you know, 100 billion a year that needs to be mobilised to developing countries, etc. There's so much work happening, and I think the merchandise, you know, the shirts and that kind of thing, again, it's part of the economy of those organisations, and certainly things probably need to change in the short to medium term. But within that right now, we're seeing a lot of things like, you know, shirts being made from upcycled plastic, or, you know, some football clubs are doing different, you know, digital kits instead of physical ones to change it. So we're seeing like progress. Certainly we could be going faster, but I think there's a lot of wider systems change that need to happen, and we need to try and drive what we can within our positions and the positions of other people in sport. But really, really important points, and appreciate your input on that as well. Question? Yeah, Nick, have you got a mic?
So really just to add on to that, I think a group of people that we ignore sometimes are the media owners and the broadcasters. If we think about the level of revenue that comes through from media and broadcast, there's some real power amongst those broadcasters, and there's not many of them, to be honest. Sponsors, there, you know, hundreds of sponsors involved in the sport. To get them to coalesce behind something would be pretty hard to do, but recognizing also that rights holders are part of the supply chain now, probably the most visible part of the supply chain, and I don't think many organizations look at sponsorship and the shirt sponsor and see it as supply part of their, they're all too busy looking at the manufacturing down the chain, but then looking how they put their brand across shirts. So I think the supply chain piece is really important, but I think actually coalescing broadcasters that provide probably 90% of the revenue into sport, and there's not many decision makers there, for them to change the contracts can shift the dial on rights holders quite significantly. And when you see the likes of you know, some of these big events, the Olympics, they do their contracts way in advance. You know, you get kind of 4 or 5 Olympics in one go, in one deal with NBC. The power NBC has at that moment to affect change is pretty substantial. And so I think those are two kind of elements that I think lend themselves to that conversation, as we sometimes forget the broadcasters.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Yeah, great point. Any other questions? Oh, yeah, hand over there. Thank you, sir.
Hi. I work for Protect Our Winters, which works with, it's an outdoor sports climate action charity, and we work with outdoors athletes on these sorts of topics. We often find they want training and support so that they can talk about the issue and come across knowledgeable and have the support on talking about this. I know Hannah's been doing great work on this with Aim High and so on. I was wondering, firstly, if we can see some training for the upcoming Winter Olympics through the IOC, and also whether there's anything happening on that front in football with the athletes. Specifically, you've talked about supporting to take action, but in terms of training. Thanks.
Thanks. Julia?
Hello. We actually work with Protect Our Winters in the Switzerland region, and we've been working with them specifically actually on a mountain alliance group, and this is where we've got together all sports which happen within a mountain environment, and you're part of that alliance actually. And we're going to be putting out, launching some toolkits on World Mountain Day in December, and it's a joint initiative it's about what can we do as sport to lessen our impacts in the mountain environments, which actually I feel are not talked about a lot, but they're incredibly fragile environments. But also it's about really providing toolkits for every single person who goes into a mountain environment, and what can they do about it. So that's definitely something that we're launching together actually, and so thank you to all of you who have been helping us with that.
Amazing. Shout out Protect Our Winters. Incredible organisation. And I think more broadly as well, if anyone else has got thoughts, I'll just chip in. I'm just dominating now. There's also other organisations like Eco Athletes, Champions for Earth, Front Runners, Players for the Planet, all of those organisations that are really trying to support athletes, footballers, but other athletes as well, in terms of making them feel comfortable talking about some pretty big issues, to be honest. And they might want to use their platform for good, but maybe they just don't feel super comfortable in case the follow-up question is a little bit bigger than they had in mind, for example. So there's so many programmes out there, and they're the sorts of ones. I think there's more we can do in football, and actually a few former footballers are looking at that. And you mentioned, Hannah, as well, is it Aim High, the training, you know, that you and Melissa have been doing, that maybe that might roll into football as well?
Yeah, so we're working towards the Winter Olympics and working with Team GB initially. We'd love to work with the IOC on more athletes globally, but working towards a programme that's tailored towards Winter Olympians to educate them on the kind of issues that are going on. But also, it's good that it was broadcasters were mentioned, because we're in chats with some of the big broadcasters around some of those sessions to educate their presenters as well, which I think is a really important piece of the puzzle.
Just to go back to broadcasters, actually, personally, I've noticed actually a change. But also about COP26, people are talking a lot more sort of hope And I've noticed that with the broadcasters. So we've got a working group with the broadcasters, our rights holders. And for the first time, I've actually seen them coming out and saying, how can we as broadcasters work together to lessen our impacts when we're broadcasting? So it's not just about speaking. And I mean, going back to maybe the London Olympics, the broadcasters, you know, sustainability was not one of the topics they wanted to focus on sport. And yes, of course, they want to focus on sport. But I've noticed them really starting to push, especially the climate messages out there, which is fantastic to see.
Definitely. And in case you're not aware, there's an organisation called Albert, based here in the UK, driven out of BAFTA, and they have a sustainable production credentials, which it's incredible to look at. So all of the shows, you know, on the outside broadcast side, sustainable production, but also now into messaging. So things like in the soaps, there's a you know, an overlap now storyline between all the soaps this week, the COP talking about climate change. So they're really driving incredible action more broadly, as well as sport broadcast more generally. So look up Albert as well if you haven't seen them. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Let's wait for a mic. Have we got a microphone? Oh, sorry, I was with you. Let's come to you first, then we'll come straight back over. Sorry, my love.
No worries at all. Just bearing in mind that we are actually sitting in a youth hub, which has been specifically created so that young people can have their voices heard. I'd love to hear from all of you what you think we can do to empower young people more. We have had some climate activists down here this week, and they created some artwork up on the wall upstairs I'd love everybody to have a look at too. Because their pain is evident and they're feeling really disempowered, very clearly so. I'd love to hear about initiatives and thoughts that you've got about bringing some of these young people into some of these huge organizations and clubs that you guys represent, so that they can feel like they are having their voices heard, and so that people sitting in the top boardrooms can actually perhaps work with them. Maybe you create sort of youth advisory groups, that sort of thing, just to help challenge ourselves and to drive faster change and enable some of these young people to feel like the grown-ups are going to be optimistic with them and really are going to stand up and be counted and look out for the future that they're going to have to live through.
Such a great question. Who wants to chip in? Julie?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke about the IOC Young Leaders, and this is exactly what that is about. So we run that, and we've just started a new phase with them, and that's very much about listening to them and then supporting them. But actually, we've also got one of those on our commission now, on our Sustainability Commission. So we really definitely 100% agree with what you say, that we have to give them a voice and we have to support them and bring them in to let them inspire us on what actions to take. So, yeah, fully agree.
Tom?
I couldn't agree with you more in terms of thinking about where, you know, our focus does need to lie. About 80% of the actions that are done in Planet Super League and COP26 are by young people. And it can be with their parents, guardians, but most of them's done on there. We've been in thousands of schools for the past 8 weeks where teachers have been doing engaging activities, and if you stick around for the conference we're doing after this, you'll see how the school children have reacted to that. And two other things. What I found amazing is with this taking action, because it's all about taking action with what we do. You've got then young people going home into the household and kind of they know more about climate change than their parents, because they're taught it at school, and you know we didn't get taught it in school. And then they're going, well, we need to do something. Why aren't we recycling? Why haven't we tried a meat-free meal? Why haven't we, you know, pumped our car tyres up more to make it more energy efficient? So you're actually seeing the kind of reverse psychology of that parent-adult transaction the other way around, which is great. I think that needs to happen, where children do feel they've got the agency to be in charge. But the final thing I say, without kind of diving into it too much, but it's fascinating. We've got 49 clubs, and some of them are massive. We've got, you know, Tottenham, Liverpool, Chelsea, global brands. What we've built isn't perfect, but here's a fascinating thing. There's a school who scored more goals than an entire football club and its fan base in the season. And that's, I won't name names because it's not fair, but one head teacher saw this and said, this is brilliant. Told all the school teachers who did stuff in assemblies and did stuff in the class, and the kids went home and signed up, and that school beat a very, very big named football club in this tournament. And so for me, what it's quickly done in a small organisation like ours is go, this schools thing is absolutely crucial. So we're going to run schools tournaments. The clubs will still be involved, but it'll be about the schools and the communities and those parents and those kids. So I couldn't agree more with you, and we have so much focus on giving the agency to the young people to take action, and that's what they're doing.
Any other thoughts on that? Or I'll go. So I think the idea of empowering an agency is massive, and we feel as that from our organisation, from Sport Positive, we want to drive action. So this year we launched our Sport Positive Next Gen. So in terms of young people, especially coming through school and university and moving into sport, we now see a huge number of people who care so passionately about the environment and love sport, but the roles don't exist for them at the moment within sport. You know, they want to bring these passions together, but there's not, we're seeing more of it, and we're going to see more and more, but there's not a sustainability role in, you know, all sports organisations at the moment. So we kind of took action from ourselves to provide 200 free passes to attend our event to people in that age group, to allow them to network with decision makers in sport, trying to help drive mentorship, etc. Setting up, we've in the process of setting up like an advisory board so that they have a voice and a seat at the table, rather than sort of putting them, as a friend of mine said, sort of a kiddies table at the wedding, where the stuff's happening over here and then the youth is sort of, yeah, that's great, but we're going to put that over there. We need to bring those voices into the overall conversation, the kind of seats of power in these organisations. So just a little snippet of kind of how we're trying to not just talk about it, but actually action some of that as well.
Also, it's about educating them as well, because a lot of them feel this sense of panic, but they don't necessarily know what to do. So I think it's also up to us to provide that education platform to say, this is what you can do to help. And that sort of empowers them also to speak out more and be more confident in trying to solve the issue as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, Julie. We are running out of time because it flies when you're having fun, but we had one last question before we do final comments.
Thank you. Ben Cummings from British Triathlon. I think although we're maybe a niche sport, we're perhaps not niche in our activities, and the fact that we go across swim, bike and run, so we are in some ways in a unique position to mitigate some of the negative actions of our activities and progress the positive ones. I think, like most sports, we are aligned around the why we need to make progress in this space. We are getting our heads around the what we need to do, but I think our key challenge is how we do it. And that, for me, is down to some financial resource and more so human resource, expertise and skills. So I just wondered what advice the panel would have in terms of how we bring together the skills that are needed for small organisations like ourselves who, you know, don't really have the bandwidth to be successful without the expertise required.
Who wants to tackle that one? Go on, Julie.
Start. Hi, Ben. I think it's, I mean, I've been speaking to you, so I know that you've set up a commission that full of fantastic people who will help you. And I think there's more and more resources out there that can support you. I mean, we've written a whole suite of guidelines, for example, which will take you from step 1 to the advanced level for sustainability, on building and embedding a sustainability strategy. So I think the resource is there, and you know, you're welcome to use it. And we're, you know, through World Triathlon as well, we're all here to support each other, I think. And that's what's been great, because when I first started my career, I really felt like a complete black sheep on my own. And just recently, it's amazing. There's so many people who are in your position who are trying to do more and more and more. And I think we're seeing more and more support and sport really coming together, and through the Sports for Climate Action framework as well, and the working groups, we're all there. There's now over 270 organisations who are supporting each other, and it's fantastic to see that. So I think just reach out and we'll help you.
There we are. Yeah.
I was going to say also, I think, there's other sports organisations that I know are maybe further down the line for whatever reason. And like Julie said, that kind of shared approach and knowledge, I think all you have to do is reach out and ask. I know the people at World Sailing, for example, have done loads of work in this space and would more than happy to kind of work and speak to you guys and share that knowledge. But also, like, sports have such an amazing alumni of people who either have competed or still competing, maybe not professionally, but who actually have skills in this space, and I'm sure if you kind of put the word out, there'd be some incredible people that could form some kind of working group to maybe help as well. So there's lots of options.
And I think there's a huge number of graduates that are coming through now that have got these environmental management expertise and this passion for sport. I think the next sort of 5 to 10 year, that trajectory, I think we're going to see a huge explosion of that. But I do know what you're saying, and there's the consultants who are supporting organisations in this space have run off their feet now, because we are seeing, amazingly, this massive growth and this massive uptick, which is what we've been pushing towards for years. Now it's happening. We need the people to be able to support that. So really, really important point. In order to keep things on time, I am going to come to you for final comments before we finish up. So we've covered loads of ground there, but I think just in terms of an actionable takeaway, whether people are, have roles within professional sport or whether they just take part in sport recreationally, how can anyone, what's your advice to anyone who wants to use sort of sport as the platform to drive more action on climate change? And Tom, let's come to you first.
Sure. I think we've now got 51 clubs on the site, and we don't have everybody, but we'd love all the main clubs. You can go there right now, you can sign up, you can score some goals, and do your bit for your club, and so it's very easy. Go to our site. In January, we've got a schools tournament that we're going to be running. I met with a colleague from Glasgow City Council yesterday, and we're going to be running it up in Scotland as well as down in England and Wales. And then next year, probably April time, we'll do another big kind of tournament with all the other clubs, and that'll be the big bang. But the site's always up there, and there's over 100 activities that you can do, some very quick, some more challenging. So go to planetsuperleague.com is my call to action.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is so many amazing organisations and engaging things to be a part of, like Planet Super League. I think it's fantastic. Mine's obviously the Big Plastic Pledge, which is just around making small changes in your everyday life that anyone can be a part of, sports fan or global athlete. And I think it's quite cool that that when you're signing your pledge, there's been some amazing athletes and Olympians that have also done the same, and we've got some phenomenal global ambassadors on our site as well. So just Google sports and sustainability. There's some incredible things going on.
There's a lot going on. Julie, what do you think?
I think to all of you, maybe just do 2 things today. One, make a commitment, whatever that will be, whether it will be a meat-free day, walking somewhere. Just take one action, Big Plastic Pledge, join it. But also the second thing is pick one person to question, like, what are you doing about it? Go into your local supermarket and ask, where does this product come from? Or just pick one person to question, because it's amazing the power that actually that does have, questioning people about where something comes from. Then, yeah.
Ledley, last but not least.
Yeah. No, I think we're all here because we obviously want to make a difference, and for some people it can be new and it can be quite daunting. But I think initiatives like Count Us In, for example, is where you can look online and follow 16 simple steps to get started, and like anything, it's a progression from there. So yeah, there's we'll keep progressing, keep working hard, but there's initiatives online where you can start off very simply and get on the right track.
Incredible. And my one would just be to use your voice. We work with so many global sports organisations, and I can tell you, if you tweet or email those organisations to say, what are you doing around sustainability, what are you doing around the environment, people read them and actions happen off the back of them inside. Sometimes you see massive organisations and you think, that's just faceless and I'm just one person. People read them, they are reacted to, and it helps galvanise efforts inside those organisations to do more. So please use your voices for that. So that's it from us. I would like to thank the Extreme Hangout and Think Beyond for bringing today's session together today. I'd like to thank Tom, Hannah, Julie and Ledley for being incredible panellists this morning. And if you can join me all in a thanks to them. And Don't go anywhere, don't go anywhere. Hannah, Julie and I are going to jump off stage, but Tom and Ledley are staying for the COP26 announcement, so don't move anywhere.
Give us a minute while we get our stuff ready. And Ledley joined me at Wembley Stadium, and we had a bunch of mascots from a bunch of the clubs coming down, and we kicked off this tournament called COP26. So 49 clubs joined, 13 of them in the Premier League. Hibs joined from in Scotland, and lots of others. And over the last 8 weeks, those clubs and the fans have been battling it out to score green goals. And I don't know if you can guess yet, but there's some ribbons on this trophy. So we're going to present this trophy in a minute. This was made in 1888, and we repurposed it because I didn't want one of those sort of eco blocks of wood. I thought it's football.
Reuse and recycle.
Exactly, we've got to reuse something. So this is the Planet Super League trophy. And we award it, and it goes in the trophy cabinet of the football club. And we want it to sit next to the league titles or the European Cups or whatever cup a club might or might not have. So they have the Planet Super League Cup when they've won it. We've seen an incredible amount of action over the last few weeks, and I think up here we've got a very short little sizzle film. If we can cue this, it'll just give you an overview of what's happened.
I'm Lucas Moura, and this is No Moura Landfill.
I support Tottenham. I support Liverpool. And I support climate action.
That's a very quick snippet of some of the action that you've seen. Fans all over the country. We've had schools involved, again, doing stuff in classrooms. We're lucky enough to have the Prime Minister along to come and celebrate one of the school actions. And I told you about one of the amazing things that a single schools beat an entire football club essentially during the week. So it really does show the power of young people taking action and doing their bit. So we're delighted. I'm going to hand over to Allegra, who we're delighted to have along today, who was with us at the launch. And yeah, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Is this working? Yes, it is. So, for those of you who don't know, my name's Allegra Stratton. I'm the PM spokesperson for COP26, not COP26, though maybe one day. We've seen progress in the last 2 days in the venue that's, I don't know, what is it, half a mile from here. I think that the movement on forests that sees more than 100 countries signed up to the most ambitious deforestation pledge that we have seen before. I know we have all been talking about stopping deforestation for a very long time, but the team that put together the program do think that it's got much more bite and will be taken much more seriously. So we now have more than 100 countries signed up to halting and reversing deforestation. Also, this global methane pledge. Methane, some people think, is the last of the low-hanging fruit of climate action, by which we mean getting countries to sign up to reducing it in the way that the UK has done since 1990. We've reduced methane gas emissions, leaking basically, by 60%, and we now want other countries to do that. And if we are successful by 2030, we think that that could avert temperature increases of 0.1 degrees. And when you think about this, the challenge we have, which is keeping 1.5 alive, you can see why every fraction is going to help. So they're two of the bits of really positive progress from the last 48 hours of, frankly, frenzied schedule, which is pretty exhausting, from the SEC just down the road. But as the PM said yesterday, there is much more to do. So the way I look at COP26 is I think it's about ambition, I then think it's about action, and then I think it's about acceleration, because the science is clear. We have to get on with this in 2030. And action and acceleration is where Tom's project comes in, because this is about people making change immediately. It's not just governments, it's everyday individuals making the change. I think it was Julia earlier on the panel who suggested to all of you, go away and think about what one step greener you could take. And clearly, what you've done with COP26 is, for me, one of the most interesting and clever things that I've seen and heard in the last 6 months, of getting people using all of our competitive instincts, but also going with the grain of how we all think about our lives. If I go one step greener, not only will I be lowering my carbon emissions, but I'll also be helping my football team get to the top. So it's immense credit to you guys for a brilliant campaign. And think of all the carbon. I don't know if you've worked it out. Have you worked out how much carbon you've reduced in the last 6 months?
Yeah, 113,000 kilos of CO2 by fans, not us, by fans.
Yeah, impressive. So with that, there's enough from me, and I'll hand back to you to announce the winner.
Thank you very much. So as I said, we're Planet Super League. We partnered with the UK government on this and the One Step Greener campaign. We've been working with the football clubs. Our organisation partnered also, where we worked with Sky, and Sky Zero have been fantastic. We're part of the Game Zero, and we built this with Counters In. We've worked arm in arm with this organisation, and together we brought this, and it's just the start. So today we're announcing, I don't know if anyone can guess whose club colours these are. It's not Hibs. No, and it's not Tottenham. But it's not Arsenal, so it's not Arsenal, so it's okay. Yeah, this, I'm going to stand up for this because it sort of feels like it's worth it. But yeah, this is the trophy, and the winner is Cambridge United. So congratulations, Cambridge United. It's a little bit like a wedding, so you kind of do the vows, and then we're going to show something, and then we're going to get a representative, Ash, and Ledley's going to hand the trophy over. But we're just going to show you a very quick video. This is what we did in a school in Cambridge just yesterday.
Good morning, everybody. COP26 has been taking place for the last 8 weeks, and it's been the biggest ever football campaign on climate. Let's invite our friend and special guest into the assembly. In first place, Cambridge United!
When I heard the news about winning, I felt really, really good. Cambridge United scored 4,259 goals. Yes! I think my favourite activity was buying reduced things. Turn the tap off, turn the light off. COP26 is important because it means you don't just slump in front of the TV every day after school, you actually get up and do something.
COP26 has got me more interested in protecting the planet.
I think it gives a big impact on the planet.
My message for world leaders is to carry on saving the environment.
My message to world leaders is to use less petrol.
Please, world leaders, stop cutting down all the trees. We need them. It's not just about the winning, it's about how the winning helped save the planet.
So we're on to the trophy handover part of stuff. So Ashley, I'd love to invite you up, and Ledley and Allegra, I don't know if you want to present the trophy.
There we go. One handle each. There you go. Well done. You've got more experience doing this, I think.
Well done.
Nice one.
Congratulations.
Names on there? Yeah?
Yep. That's great.
Already?
Engraved.
Right, and that will be filled in 15 years' time. Fantastic.
There you are.
Well done.
There you are. Do you want to say a few words? So Ash from Cambridge, tell us, how did you beat some of the biggest clubs on these massive fan bases?
Well, first of all, Allegra, you mentioned competitive. I must say you have no idea how competitive we've all been at the club. I want to tell you a really quick story. It's one of the boys that featured in the video there, a young lad, aged 9. He was nominated by his peers to be his class's Planet Super League manager. And I caught up with him on a weekly basis for a debrief on his performance and the class's performance. And he took it so seriously. He would say, well, yeah, it's a good performance from the guys. Got a couple of meat-free meals in early doors. Got off to a great start. And, yeah, could have got a few more screen-free evenings in. So I've had a word with the guys. So we've got to up our game ready. We've got a big game next week, so we've got to get ready for that. So, yeah, it's brilliant. And these children are so empowered and so inspired. I am incredibly proud. We're proud as a club. We're proud of our fans, our schools, our community, and the families associated with Cambridge United. We're fortunate at the moment to have a team on the pitch that we're very proud of and is very much on the up. But to involve the whole club, the whole community in something that they can directly contribute to winning is just something that we're immensely proud of. In terms of the participation, we've had everything from my 3-year-old nephew making bugs out of leaves to contribute to activities, to seniors who we work with to help tackle loneliness, who have been going out on well-being walks to hit their targets of going for 2K walks, to get their goals as well. We've had participants from our mental health support programs and our sessions to help build well-being by doing the activities and having that community feel. It has been a truly marvellous opportunity for us to be a part of that as a club. And it's not just something that we're stopping now. There's already discussions in place for long-term impacts at the club. We're meeting with the board of directors to talk about how to make Cambridge a greener club and increase our sustainability across all of our operations as a direct result of our victory at COP26. So that's something that we're really, really proud of. Finally, just a quick message from me, really. It's quite simple. Sport is more than 3 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon. Sport is so much more. Sport gives the opportunity to thrive to absolutely everyone, without exception. And I want this to be a really great example to help you all understand how powerful sport can be to creating better futures and inspiring and empowering our young people to protect our planet. Thank you very much.
So thank you everyone for listening to us all. We've, as I say, Cambridge are the winners. We've got some really exciting stuff we're going to be doing at their next home match to celebrate this with the fans and everyone that's been part of it. We are, as I say, COP26 is finishing because we've got to COP26 now. In January, we're doing a big schools tournament, again across the country, and then next year we'll be doing a bigger and better, don't know the name for it yet, but more clubs involved and a big month long, so look out for it next year. We're delighted, and thank you everybody for being with us today. I enjoy it, and fingers crossed that Allegra and the team, and we can get the deal we need, and hopefully COP26 shows that. I think the PM said we were 5-1 down a few days ago. I'd love to think that COP26 can score a goal.
He put it at 5-2 yesterday. Still not great though.
So if maybe this makes us 5-3, we're doing our bit. But thank you very much, everybody.